high household bills, but spare a thought for people in Germany. They pay almost 50% more than the European average for their electricity. That's because of a green energy levy. But hundreds of large companies are exempt, and many consumers are getting very frustrated about that. This as the government works on reforming the bill on so-called energy transition. Jessica Saltz reports.
We are in Bernau, near Berlin. Christina and Georg Donat settled here 6 months ago with their 2 children, but since then their energy bill has increased by a third. The family is careful about saving energy. They never leave more than 1 light on at a time, but still the tax used to finance renewable energy eats into their budget a bit more each month. Supporters of the planned nuclear exit strategy, they are willing to pay more for clean energy, but they can no longer afford to.
We both work, we earn average salaries, just what we need. But we have to be careful with our money. 25 euros more per month does not sound much,
but if this sum keeps increasing each month, each year, we'll have to move again, because we can no longer afford to pay the electricity bill for this apartment.
The law on renewable energies introduced in 2000 largely contributed to the development of green energy in Germany, but it is very costly to consumers. To remedy this, the government has modified its funding by reducing grants and changing the framework for how much will be produced. But this reform caused an outcry from the environmental NGOs. In mid-May, 12,000 people took to the streets in the capital to denounce the disruption of the energy transition.
Das sind die Kleinen gewesen, die in die Strukturen gegangen sind, die mit jedem Bürgermeister und jedem Landwirt einzeln gesprochen haben. Und das wird so in dieser Form nicht mehr passieren können. Und damit wird auch die Energiewende an sich bedroht sein.
Critics of the reform project are very angry. They denounce the new methods of financing the development of renewable energies, and especially the government's broken promises.
We want to get rid of coal and nuclear, and the government decides to slow the energy transition. It's nonsense.
The Grand Coalition, and in particular the Minister of Economy and Energy, has really made a mess of the energy transition in order to benefit large companies. The minister really is a good buddy for all these big bosses.
Even though they consume a large amount of energy, manufacturers remain unaffected by this reform. 2,000 large German firms continue to be exempt from paying tax for the development of renewable energy, although they were supposed to participate in the effort to relieve the burden on consumers. For Sigmar Gabriel, the Minister for Economic Affairs and Energy, competitiveness is the priority.
It's true, if the exceptions granted to these companies in 2000 were removed, it could reduce the household electricity bill by 40 to 45 euros. But the price to pay for this decline would be the removal of hundreds of thousands of industrial jobs in this country. Hundreds of thousands.
To achieve the objectives of the energy transition, 40 to 45% renewable energy by 2025, Germany will continue to rely on households.
Man senkt vor allen Dingen die Akzeptanz, weil die Bevölkerung nicht versteht, warum sie mehr bezahlen muss und viele Industriebereiche immer weniger bezahlen müssen, zumal die Industrie ohnehin schon profitiert von sehr niedrigen Börsenpreisen. Denn die sind so niedrig wie seit über 10 Jahren nicht mehr. Und die Verbraucher merken davon nichts, weil es nicht an sie weitergegeben wird.
According to a recent survey, only 56% of Germans still support the nuclear phase-out. Georg and Christina are still in favour, but for how long? The next price hike has already been announced.
Now, for more on Germany and its energy transition, I'm joined on set by Andres Rudiger. He is a research fellow on energy and climate policy at the Institute for Sustainable Development and International Relations. Hello, thank you very much for coming in. I'd like to start off by asking you if these high electricity bills that consumers are seeing in Germany are the government's fault, or are they actually energy providers? Is it their fault? They're putting the prices up?
Well, I think it's not easy to put the fault on anybody. I think there's a combination of factors playing here. We have one very obvious one, which is the energy transition and the development of renewable energies. Germany passed from 7% of renewable electricity in the year 2000 to about more than 25% today. So that's a huge increase. It has helped also to bring down the cost of renewables across the world, and which helps us today to make renewables competitive in a number of countries. So it's a combination of factors also, because we have other factors like new taxes that have been integrated later on. We have had 2 increases in VAT since 1999. We also had a new tax, which is called the ecological tax on electricity, which actually helps to bring the charge of taxes on labor down. So we have a combination of factors here, and also European factors. The price on gas imports has doubled in Europe between 2005 and 2012. And right now we have what we could call a crisis in the European electricity market, which can also explain these factors.
I'd like to ask you a little bit more about Europe more widely later on. But first, you mentioned that renewable energies are competitive. So does that mean that actually it's not that it's more expensive to be green? Because from what we understand, when consumers are complaining about high energy prices, they're saying, well, perhaps, we're not going to support green energy so much if it's expensive. But that's not the case, you're saying.
Well, it's the case for the moment, but it's only the case because we're not integrating the full cost of energy until now. So we have one big issue, which is a carbon price, and which right now is very, very weak in Europe. And we also could wonder about nuclear safety and the real cost of nuclear safety. So telling that renewables are competitive, it depends on what basis we are comparing them to. But a second element is that in many countries right now, building solar installations or even windmills is cheaper than doing new gas power plants or new nuclear power plants. If you take on the UK case, in Great Britain, they are building right now 2 new nuclear reactors, which will cost about 120 euros per megawatt hour. Right now, you can already do wind power on a 70 euros basis. So it's much cheaper, yeah.
So do you think then that there should be more efforts made on a European level to combat this problem of big bills in energy? Do you think that it's not just a German problem or a UK problem, it should be addressed on a European level?
It's truthfully a European problem. We have a European electricity market, which should be finalized by the end of this year. And we have a lot of issues which only can be addressed at the European level. We have the carbon price, we have a European market for carbon emissions. So we have to reinforce that to really make renewables competitive. We have, as I mentioned, a crisis in the European electricity market because we have, overcapacities right now because demand has been stagnating since the crisis. And, it makes things difficult. So if we want to go further in the energy transition and do it in all countries, we have to find a European solution. And that's what's happening right now. Politicians are right now discussing the energy and climate framework for 2030.
How does the situation in France compare to the situation in Germany? Because I understand that today a project on an energy transition is being put to the cabinet here in France.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true. It's quite funny because when talking about energy policies in Germany and France, people are saying we're comparing apples and oranges because of divergences on nuclear power. But actually, we face exactly the same challenges in both countries. It's all about decarbonization, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 80% until 2050, diversification, reducing the dependency on imported fossil fuels, and about energy demand, reducing energy demand, increasing energy efficiency, and that's the real key to our future competitiveness.
Okay, thank you very much, Andreas Rudinger, for coming in for Focus here on France 24. Right, that's it for our 2-hour live show. I'll be back in a few minutes, though, with a full news roundup. Stay tuned.